The year 2016 sent shockwaves through the global order. A political outsider, Donald J. Trump, ascended to the most powerful office in the world. His America First rhetoric signaled a dramatic shift in American foreign policy. Traditional alliances were questioned, long-standing trade agreements were challenged, the world watched with bated breath, uncertain of what this new era held. Trump's presidency, though tumultuous and unconventional, left an indelible mark on geopolitics, accelerating existing trends and igniting new ones. Few could have predicted the extent to which Trump's policies would reverberate across the globe. From the bustling streets of Beijing to the halls of power in Brussels, from the launch pads of Cape Canaveral to the strategic waterways of the Panama Canal, the Trump effect was felt far and wide. This essay delves into 4 key areas reshaped by Trump's presidency: the U.S. China power dynamic, the transformation of NATO, the ascent of private industry in global politics, and the shifting landscape of global shipping. By examining these areas, we can begin to understand the short-term tremors and long-term transformations that have defined the Trump era. We will also grapple with the question that has haunted international relations scholars and policymakers alike. Was Trump's approach a deliberate strategy or an exercise in chaotic disruption? The answer, as we shall see, is far from simple. At the heart of Trump's geopolitical maneuvering lay a fundamental belief: China's economic rise posed an existential threat to American dominance. To counter this perceived threat, Trump launched a trade war, slapping tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. This aggressive approach, while intended to protect American jobs and intellectual property, had far-reaching consequences. Initially, the trade war strained the Chinese economy. However, it also galvanized a spirit of self-reliance within China. The Chinese government poured resources into developing its domestic semiconductor industry, reducing its dependence on foreign technology. Simultaneously, China deepened its trade ties with other global players, including Russia, the European Union, and key nations in the Middle East. This diversification of partnerships allowed China to mitigate the impact of American tariffs. Furthermore, the trade war emboldened China's military ambitions. Asserting its claims in the South China Sea with increased vigor, China expanded its naval presence and constructed artificial islands capable of hosting military installations. This muscular approach signaled China's determination to protect its interests, even in the face of American pressure. Trump's disdain for multilateralism extended to NATO, the cornerstone of transatlantic security since the end of World War II. He repeatedly criticized NATO allies for not meeting their defense spending commitments, questioning the very relevance of the alliance in the 21st century. This rhetoric, while unsettling to America's European partners, ultimately proved to be a catalyst for change. Faced with American uncertainty, European nations embarked on a path of greater military self-reliance. Defense budgets increased across the continent, and joint military exercises became more frequent and ambitious. This newfound European resolve was particularly evident in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, where NATO members provided substantial military and humanitarian aid to the embattled nation. Ironically, Trump's attempts to weaken NATO had the opposite effect. The alliance emerged from the Trump era stronger and more unified, albeit with a greater emphasis on European leadership and burden sharing. This shift in dynamics within NATO has significant implications for the future of transatlantic relations. Trump's economic policies, particularly his corporate tax cuts and deregulation efforts, created a fertile environment for the growth of private industry. Few companies benefited more from this environment than SpaceX, the brainchild of Elon Musk. Under Trump, NASA shifted its focus towards partnerships with private companies, allowing SpaceX to take center stage in the new space race. SpaceX's success in developing reusable rockets and deploying vast networks of Starlink satellites have transformed the company into a major player in the aerospace industry. SpaceX now holds lucrative contracts with the U.S. government for military and civilian spaceflight, challenging the traditional dominance of established aerospace giants. The rise of SpaceX has profound geopolitical implications. Space is no longer the exclusive domain of nation-states. Private companies like SpaceX now possess the technological capabilities to launch satellites, transport cargo, and potentially even humans into space. This commercialization of space has blurred the lines between national security and private enterprise, creating both opportunities and challenges for governments worldwide. Section 5. Choke points and shifting tides, global shipping redefined. Trump's America First agenda extended to the realm of global shipping. Recognizing the strategic importance of maritime trade routes, Trump sought to assert American control over key choke points, particularly the Panama Canal. This critical waterway, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, plays a vital role in facilitating global trade. Trump's administration exerted pressure on Panama to limit Chinese investment in the canal's expansion projects. This move, aimed at curbing China's growing influence in the region, had significant consequences for global supply chains. Companies reliant on the Panama Canal for transporting goods faced increased costs and delays, highlighting the interconnectedness of global trade and the potential for disruption. Trump's focus on controlling global shipping routes underscores the strategic importance of maritime commerce in the 21st century. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, securing access to and control over these vital arteries of trade will remain a top priority for nations vying for economic and geopolitical dominance. Section 6. Method in the Madness: Unpacking Trump's Grand Strategy. The world has grappled with the question of whether Trump's seemingly impulsive actions were part of a grand strategy or merely a series of reactive and disruptive maneuvers. Some argue that Trump's unconventional approach was a deliberate attempt to upend the established world order and advance American interests. Others contend that his actions were often driven by personal whims and a lack of understanding of the complexities of international relations. There is evidence to support both sides of this debate. Trump's trade war with China, for instance, can be seen as a calculated risk to weaken a rising economic competitor. Similarly, his pressure on NATO allies to increase defense spending aligns with a long-standing American desire for greater burden sharing within the alliance. However, Trump's often contradictory statements and actions make it difficult to discern a clear and consistent strategy. His decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal, for example, while celebrated by some, was widely criticized for destabilizing the Middle East and undermining American credibility on the world stage. Section 7. The world holds its breath, short-term tremors. The immediate impact of Trump's presidency on geopolitics was one of uncertainty and disruption. Allies questioned America's reliability. Adversaries sensed an opportunity to exploit perceived American weakness. Global markets reacted nervously to Trump's unpredictable pronouncements and policy shifts. The trade war with China created economic headwinds for both countries, disrupting global supply chains and raising prices for consumers. Trump's confrontational approach to NATO sowed discord within the alliance, casting doubt on America's commitment to European security. His withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal escalated tensions in the Middle East, increasing the risk of conflict in the region. In the short term, Trump's presidency introduced a level of volatility and unpredictability into international affairs not seen in decades. The rules-based international order, already under strain, was further tested by Trump's America First approach. Section 8. A New Paradigm: Long-Term Transformations. While the short-term effects of Trump's presidency were undeniably disruptive, the long-term consequences are still unfolding. Some argue that Trump's actions have fundamentally altered the global landscape, ushering in an era of great power competition and a retreat from multilateralism. The trade war with China, for instance, has accelerated the decoupling of the world's two largest economies. Both countries are now pursuing policies of greater self-reliance, reducing their economic interdependence. This trend towards economic nationalism is likely to continue, potentially leading to a more fragmented global economy. Trump's skepticism of NATO has also had a lasting impact on transatlantic relations. While the alliance remains intact, European nations are now more focused on developing their own defense capabilities and reducing their reliance on the United States. This shift towards European strategic autonomy has significant implications for the future of NATO and the transatlantic partnership. Section 9. The Future of Geopolitics: A World Reshaped. The Trump presidency has left an indelible mark on geopolitics. Whether his actions were part of a grand strategy or a series of impulsive decisions, there is no doubt that Trump has reshaped the global landscape. The world is now grappling with the consequences of his policies, from the rise of China to the transformation of NATO, from the emergence of private space companies to the shifting dynamics of global trade. As we look to the future, several key questions remain. Will the trend towards great power competition continue, or will new forms of cooperation emerge? Will the rules-based international order survive, or will it be replaced by a more fragmented and unpredictable system? How will the rise of new technologies, such as artificial intelligence and hypersonic weapons, further transform geopolitics? The answers to these questions will shape the world for decades to come. One thing is certain. The Trump era has ushered in a new chapter in geopolitics, one characterized by both challenges and opportunities.